Welcome back to season 2. Gosh, it feels good to be in the chair. It's been over 60 days. I can't believe it. I'm sure you missed me. If you were listening to the last episodes, you know that we're changing things up in 2025. We will be doing one episode a month where I take some time to find some really intriguing guests. And when we have the opportunity, we'll have a little bit of a longer form conversation. But we're starting out season 2 with an amazing conversation with Neil Rogers. He is an absolute sales and marketing wizard, and he's got a great way that he talks about success and shares some incredible antidotes and tips from his best-selling book. I know you're going to love it. Stay tuned, like and listen, and be sure to subscribe. And most importantly, enjoy the episode. Wherever you are and however you are listening, gosh, it's good to be back. I realize I have not sat in this chair for over 60 days. Took a little hiatus there for the holiday season. I couldn't be more excited to jump into season 2. And I've got a really exciting guest with me today. Someone I've been working on trying to get on the podcast for probably like 6 months or so. So what a way to kick off season 2. And that is Neil Rogers. He is the owner and VP of Rogers Marketing, has been in that seat for 26 years. Neil, welcome to the podcast.
Cody, glad to be here. Fantastic. Looking forward to chatting.
So I'm so excited because it sounds like, you know, you've got 37 years of experience in marketing and sales, and you wrote a best-selling book, Bar Tips. Everything I need to know, everything I need to know in sales, I learned behind the bar. And a couple things that I love bars. I also love sales. And, you know, Malcolm Gladwell says it takes 10,000 hours to be an expert. And if I have 10,000 hours in anything, it's probably sales. And it's such a fascinating skill because I feel like you need it in anything that you do. And so I'd love to start the dialogue there with being behind the bar and being a bartender. Was that just a job that you had that you were starting off in college and it turned into what it is? Or what's the story behind the book, Bar Tips?
Well, my reason for being a bartender was I really had nothing else I could do at that point. So I was stumbling my way through college trying to figure that out. And I was all the while working in the hospitality business, and wound up behind the bar as a bar back. And I started watching the guys work the bar, and I said, well, isn't that cool? So that was my criteria of being a bartender. I wanted to be one of the cool kids.
I mean, that makes sense. That checks out. And you said you were in hospitality. I didn't know that. That's my day job, is hospitality. Were you at a bar at a hotel when you started that?
No, but I mean, the hospitality business is not limited to. We were hospitable in the bars.
Sure. Yeah. And so, what were you going to school for at the time?
To get to the other side.
And what was the other side for you?
Well, I got a degree in business and focused on marketing, but all of what I've done has all been self-taught.
Yeah, it's funny because, you know, obviously you wrote the book Bar Tips, not School Tips. And so often in life we find that the things that we do are where we learn the most. And so I'm curious, like, when did you have that epiphany of I'm going to go and I'm going to take the time, because it takes a lot of work to write a book. And so I wonder, at what point in your journey did you decide you wanted to write a book, and what made you decide to write it about bar tips?
Well, quite frankly, it was one of those things you did during you know what, and I won't say the word, to keep yourself from losing your mind.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so you used that time to write it.
Correct.
And so I'd imagine then at that point you were pretty far removed from being a bartender.
Oh, many years.
Yeah.
Many years. So it was probably, it was in the 30s, 34, 34, 35, somewhere in that vicinity. And I'm married 37 years. So I always tag it back to when we got married. That was the end of the bar career.
So 37 years of experience in marketing and sales and marriage.
Exactly.
There you go.
And it's all a sales job.
Yeah, that's true. Marriage is no different. And okay, so tell me then, when now you've had 37 years of experience, you've built this big marketing company that you've done for 26 years, but yet it was still the principles of the bar tips that you decided that that's what I was going to spend the time on. And so I'd love to get a couple of those antidotes or things that really stuck out to you that made you think, like, out of all this amazing stuff you've done, this is what you wanted your book to be about.
all the amazing stuff comes from the simple things that I learned from behind the bar. And also when we talked about, we mentioned about it wasn't school tips, but the same tips, the same things I did to finally get good at school and realize, all right, there's a few things here that you should be doing, like number one, show up. Two, actively listen, take notes, answer questions where appropriate, participate where you can, do the extra work, go to the office hours, make the phone call, do everything that you over deliver, if you will. Kind of sounds like sales, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So essentially, I sold myself to the teachers and whatnot, and I was, I did well, but I think it would be my guess if I was teetering on a B, a B plus or an A, I'm probably getting the A.
It's funny you say that. So are you familiar with Vistage? Have you heard of Vistage?
The Stitch?
Vistage, like Vistage, Vistage.
No,
So it is the largest peer advisory group in the world, and it's groups of C-suite executives that get together 12 times a year. It's like, a peer advisory group. 8 of the 12 meetings have to bring in a speaker, and I was just barely doing that in Philadelphia a couple weeks ago. And in my talk, I talk about sales, and I talk about my struggle with education growing up. I couldn't learn in the way that the schools wanted me to. And as I got older and I learned the value of relationships and likability, my grades got better, and did I become a better student, or did I learn the value of having the teacher like me? And to your point, that B all of a sudden became an A. My knowledge didn't really change fundamentally, but my relationship skills did. And I think that's why I love sales, is it doesn't matter what I've done. I always find that it's the skill set that made me good at sales that has indirectly made me good at anything else that I do.
This is true. I think the greatest compliment I've received on my book to this point was a friend of mine said, "Hey Neil, I read your book. I really liked your book. Is that how you did the other stuff too?" Yep. And the other stuff would include things that that involve our 34-year-old man with autism, our son.
Oh, okay. Talk about that.
He did many things in using the simple philosophies, relationship development type philosophies, to do some pretty major things for him and those like him in our area. And as a matter of fact, it's my next book, which is Navigating the Special Needs World with Positive Activity.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So yeah, we talked earlier off camera about your website, Positive Activity. So is that website geared towards the work you're doing with your son then? I didn't have a chance to jump into it.
Well, no, it's more along the line of it's kind of the sum total of there is a chapter in the book on positive activity. It's a short chapter because it's a whole thing. And but it's really kind of the sum total of our lives together. About, let's say, I want to say my daughter was 12, 11. So about 13 years ago, my daughter was a Division I lacrosse player and had a career-ending head injury. And so she's doing great now. Matter of fact, her and my wife are up at Stowe, Vermont, in some yoga retreat. And so one of the things, she spent her natural senior year home with us in post-concussion syndrome. And one of the things, and literally this happened in October, and she drove again in July. So
oh wow,
she couldn't listen to it. She couldn't watch anything.
Wow, so it's a severe concussion.
Computer, all those things. So she would listen to books on tape. One of the books that she listened to was Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. And with that, she started to get really into this kind of mindful behaviors and whatnot, and discovered that locally here there was a fair with all sorts of Zen like mindful behavior type people, and asked my wife, "Would you take me to this?" So Lori went. And there started our journey. Around there, we had also done some other things. Both of us got into yoga, meditation, all that. And but anyways, that we recognize, and Lori got into the whole um, um, law of attraction and the like. So that's kind of like the beginning part of positive
Okay.
activity, getting your mind shifted in a place of positivity, which leads you to open-minded, divergent thinking, solution providing, creativity, which then takes you on to with robust productivity. So depending upon what your productivity steps are after that, I've used it in business. I've used it in my music. Anytime we need to exercise a plan, that it always involves positive activity. So that's kind of that's kind of in the initial steps on the positive activity side, on the productivity side is business development steps. And
Okay.
so we've been using some shape or form the same business development criteria for ever to success. So, just some of it has changed in how we do it. We operate in the world of micro marketing. We don't do any spray and pray type stuff. We're big in referrals. We don't really, very rarely do we cold call, that type of stuff. And we definitely rely way more on relationships from other people because, as they say, it's not who you know, it's who they know.
And when you say that you're relying on relationships, is that for leads into your Rogers marketing company, or is that how you help support your clients, is helping them be relationship driven?
Well, no, if if we're looking to grow and get new clients or whatnot, we use this process
Okay.
where it's not picking numbers up. Well, of course, I'm going to date myself now, picking numbers out of a phone book. I mean, even now, I even have an AI tool that is just okay. What still works is looking at somebody's LinkedIn. Hey, do you know this person? Can you introduce me to him? And then we put them into the process.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you mentioned Eckhart Tolle. He's one of my favorite authors. The Power of Now is a book. That's one that always gets recommended by me for people. And there's something so powerful in being present, and yet it's something that I find to be so elusive for so many. In fact, I was just having a conversation with an associate of mine this week, and we're having our weekly check-in, and he said, gosh, I had this sense on Monday, I'm just not where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to do more. And I said, okay. I was like, so like a comparison? And he's like, I don't know, just that like I thought I would have done more at this point in my life. And I said, well, what's interesting about that is if 12 months ago you knew where you were today, you're 12 months ago, you would have signed on the dotted line to have exactly what you have right now in this moment. But now that you're here and you're present, you're looking for the next thing. And I was like, that's so challenging because you'll never be happy if you're living in something that has yet to happen, right? Instead of appreciating like, wow, I would have given anything 12 months ago to be where I am today. And it's sad that as humans, we do this to ourselves because yet here he is in this place that he would have, again, signed on the dotted line for. And he still feels like I should be doing more. And it's because
hanging around with the wrong people.
Well, yeah. And he wasn't present, right? He was living in something that has yet to happen. And so I think and winning the moment.
Or he's looking at other people. And he's looking what Cody has, what this one has, that one. Why can't I be like Tom Brady? Well, whatever.
Because avocado ice cream is not very good. That's one of the reasons, But
What's that?
I said avocado ice cream is not very good. That's the joke we used to make when we play basketball. And because I'm like a similar age or, older like Tom Brady. And someone said like, oh, Tom can still do it. Why are you so tired? It's like, well, because I drink whiskey and Tom Brady eats avocado ice cream. We're not built the same. We're a little bit different.
Exactly.
And I loved what you had on your website, like your header, your meta tag was change your mindset and increase abundance, productivity, and creativity, which is like what a great place to be in. Like those are things that are just universally true. And it's pretty cool to hear that it sounds like it's your whole family's a part of it.
Oh, we all subscribe to the vibe for sure. So it's and it's been very good to us. Here's the deal. I feel a hell of a lot better when I'm positive than when I'm not.
Well, and that's what's kind of so interesting about it is that it's just so simple that I think people don't want it to be the answer. But you get to control what you think of things that happen. Like, we are in control of our thoughts as long as we are present. Otherwise, our subconscious can run off with them. But we get to decide how we feel about things that happen. We just had something happen at our in our hospitality business this week, a really troubling event on Monday. And we were on a call today discussing it. And I said, look, here's the deal. Like, obviously it wasn't good and it shouldn't have happened and we need to correct it. But I do believe this can be a catalyst for a really positive transformation, because that's the way that I choose to see things. I could dwell on this negative event that happened and stew on it and be afraid of what, what's going to happen because of it. Or I can say, here's a moment and a catalyst that's going to create positivity in the future for us. And it really starts in our mind.
Correct. And we've been going through it for years. That's why, I mean, with our son, it's tough to spin sometimes, but you have to, and you just go, because you know what? He deserves it.
I'm sure. And you said your son's is 34, is that right?
34, yes.
And so I bet there wasn't, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I would imagine there wasn't a whole lot of information or outlets for guidance for you guys 34 years ago about raising a son with autism.
He is a trailblazer.
Yeah.
So we did, and most parents will. I mean, we're not an exclusive club here. Turn over every stone, every rock, to try to find out if we can help. But one of the things that we always remain open, even when we weren't open. By that I mean the latest thing that we've done for him. So he's a non-speaker, and 30% of autistic people are non-speakers. They have apraxia, which is a brain. It's a motor planning issue where your brain is not telling your fine motor skills what to do, like your lips, your tongue, etc. But what they have is they have gross motor skills, and they can point. So he points to a letterboard, and he spells out brilliant answers to questions or incredibly insightful statements. Just, it's like mind-numbing. But then when you look at him, there's my guy.
Yeah.
But where I was saying, one of the things that this woman had recommended I read this book, Underestimated, a woman I ride bikes with. Neil, it's an autism miracle. Oh, really? Hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dollars on this, 30 some odd years in. I'm looking for another miracle. All it sounded like to me was a bad path, dirt road, lots of disappointment. And Lori felt the same way. But because we continued to roll along, Lori went and met with a new functional doctor. And the doctor, who we've known from the past, who moved away and she came back, almost the second thing out of her mouth was, you've read Underestimated, haven't you? Well, no, but I'm gonna. And so we've been on a path with that for almost 3 years now. And the point of that is that we did remain open. We turned off to it, but because we were going elsewhere and still digging, someone reinforced the fact that we should get involved with this. We have, and it's been, again, it hasn't changed the circumstances other than Craig is happier.
Well, and what's interesting about that too is that I also believe in the universe and signs, and part of seeing signs and believing, and you can change the universe, whatever word you want to use, but you were present enough to hear that advice and take that advice. Like, the universe gave you a sign and you took it, and now you've been on this 3-year journey. So I'm curious for your son. So does he travel with the letterboard in the event that he needs to communicate with people outside of you, or does he rely on you guys and can't really go it alone?
He has to be with somebody he's open with.
He does.
And there's a whole process to go through that. I don't know, sitting here today, that, he's going to walk into a restaurant with a letterboard and pick out what he wants.
Interesting. Okay. Unless
he has someone that can communicate with him. My wife right now is very open with him. We've got a practitioner that's with him. I'm getting there.
Yeah.
But it's time, it's just about, it's time. And he doesn't live with us. So it's, but yeah, I don't know where today, as we sit, I don't know where it ends up.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's remarkable that you guys have done so much and created this atmosphere where he was able to really, grow and shine. I think that's pretty amazing. I think I saw in your bio that you're also a speaker. Is that true?
Correct.
And so when you speak, are you speaking on autism? Are you speaking on your book, or marketing perhaps? What is it that you built your
Yes.
speaking career around? All of it?
So we have, if you look at our website, you'll see that we have a speaker bio on caregiving and a speaker bio on positive activity, more the line of business development.
How long have you had your speaking career for?
We've just started it the last couple of years. We're just inching our way into it. I've spoken at Berkeley School of Music, a bunch of small companies around here. So it's we're just getting cracking with it because we still have the other business.
Yeah, it's hard to break into this speaking gig. That's something that when my book came out, I wanted to be able to go and that's why I asked if you knew about Vistage. That's kind of where I get to practice my craft the most because there's just always a need for it, and they're all over the United States, which is great. And I've gone and done a couple different classes and things like that. So I was curious where you were in your journey and if you've invested in any speaking classes or if you found anything that was really beneficial to you in your pursuit of that. Toastmasters. I just was reading Lewis Howe's book, and he talked about Toastmasters was a real catalyst for him and starting that, or overcoming, I should say, his fear of public speaking.
Well, I don't have that, but it's just as you said earlier, practicing your craft. I mean, just getting your rap down, getting your process down, getting how you want to speak. My thing is very simply, I don't use big words. I don't know them. I speak. I've lived all that I speak about. These were my ideas that I imparted that worked for me. If they work for you, I think that'd be wonderful. I think some of this stuff will work for you. Take what you like, leave the rest. Positive activity is very similar. What we did, the reason why we do use a lot of stuff out of The Happiness Advantage by Sean Acor, and talking about just how effective the more positive you sells 37% more. Wouldn't you want that? 31%, and this is a study done over 12 years at Harvard, so those are the types of things that we talk about as far as, we don't get too much. That's about all the stats that we do.
Okay.
We just speak from the heart, and we talk about how this has affected our lives and how also, both from a professional standpoint and even more so in our personal lives, especially as it relates to our special needs son. So
that's an interesting stat. I've never heard that you sell 30% more. Did you say
37%?
Oh, 37% more.
31% more productive. You're healthier. There's also the book is The Happiness Advantage. Grab it.
Yeah, I just wrote that down. And I know it to be true because one of my companies was a marketing company, and we worked with professional and collegiate sporting events. So we were on the concourse selling things, which is like no one wants to be sold anything when you're walking around a baseball stadium. The last thing you want is one of those vendors to stop you and sell you something. But what I knew is that if I put a big smile on my face and I was happy to see them, the odds of them being willing to talk to me was infinitely higher, because it didn't matter what I was saying. I could say the exact same thing, but if my body language and my facial expressions were that of I don't want to be here, which so many salespeople struggled with that because they were just unaware of the fact that their billboard was very much don't talk to me, even though their words were talk to me. What people could see was the opposite. And so it was exhausting in the sense of, I probably overdid my enthusiasm and happiness in order to try and attract as many people as I possibly could, But then the nice thing about it is once you get that momentum going, then the happiness is real because you feel good about the success you're having.
Yeah, but I mean, even making the shift, just by making the shift and making yourself happier, even if you're just trying to project it, is better.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they talk about the statistics about smiling, the impact it makes and the difference it makes not only on yourself, but on other people as well. I would love for you to talk a little bit about Toastmasters some more, because I don't know much about it, but it seems to be this reoccurring theme of people bringing it up as an important step in speaking. So I'd love for you to share kind of a little bit more about Toastmasters and how that's been a benefit to you.
So, after making presentations for a number of years, I mean, years, in front of people, never, basic presentations, not in front of 400 people,
You're
but
saying like for clients you're selling, people you're
yeah,
pitching your
just, in a
product, things like that.
boardroom, that
Yeah.
type of thing.
Uh-huh.
Lori and I went and gave a talk, and I went to introduce her in a ditty I had said 4,000 times, was sweating bullets.
Interesting.
I was just like, what is going on with me right now? So again, this was during, you know what?
Okay.
I won't say the word. So when I get back, I said, you know what? I really need to start working on my chops again and get in front of people. This is like distressing. So I looked for Toastmasters years ago. Someone told me about it years ago. I don't need that. I don't need that. Whatever. And a little less coachable back then. And so I just signed up. I went to visit, signed up that night. And essentially, what it is, it's typically our group is around 25 people, and everything in the structure of the meeting is a speaking opportunity. You can be the Toastmaster, where you're the master of ceremonies. B, you can be a featured speaker, and it's usually we have up to four. I think most people have 2 or 3. All right. So then you prepare a speech, 5 to 7 minutes. If it's an icebreaker, it's 4 to 6. That's about you. That's the first speech you give. And then then there are people that evaluate you. And the evaluation is another opportunity to speak. So you're going to give you're going to compile notes based on based on the speech that you heard, based on certain criteria or just your own criteria. And then you're going to give 1 to 2 minutes on that speech. Then there's a thing called table topics, where you get to speak extemporaneously. So somebody comes in with a topic, and they say, "Here are the two different ways to go. Who wants to go next? Who wants to go first?" And somebody raises their hand, somebody gets up, and that's 2 to 3 minutes. So you got to organize your thoughts, get up there, deliver something front to back. I think it's 2 to 3 or 1 to. I think that's 1 to 2 too. That's 1 to 2 as well. Then there is the joke master. You want to tell a joke. The grammarian, where you're really looking for really great phrases, the use of filler words like and ah and those types of things.
Yeah.
And there's an They also come up with the word of the day, and then people that are speaking, about whether they're speaking as table topics or as a speaker or as an evaluator, it doesn't matter. They weave in the word of the day.
Oh, so it's really making you like kind of work on the fly a little bit too.
Yes. So it's not just it's a good networking opportunity.
Yeah, it sounds fun.
And it's all walks of life. It's not necessarily people like you and I. It's you'll see a lot of engineers,
Interesting.
a lot of people that really need to work on their public speaking skills, or their fright, their fear of it.
Yeah. And so when you said you signed up, is there like a fee that you pay for that to be a part of it?
Yeah, it's short money. It's less than $100.
Okay. And how often do you meet with your group?
2 times a month.
Oh, that sounds awesome. I'm gonna have to look into that. You said something in passing that you're more coachable now than you were. What do you think has allowed you to become more coachable?
I'm just smarter. I'm way more humble.
Interesting. Humble makes sense with age, but I'd almost think that you'd be more willing to be coachable when you're younger, because obviously you don't know what you don't know. But as you express it in that way, as we get more and more exposure, then we're really aware of what we don't know.
Well, let me correct myself. I would suggest prior to 25, 24, I was not very coachable. After that, I reckon, well, maybe somewhere in there, 22 to whatever. Yeah. I had all the answers, right? But I literally was going nowhere. And then when I finally realized I was going nowhere, and I better turn my life and start getting going, start doing these simple things like showing up
Yeah.
to school, right, and asking questions and listening better. And I realized, well, that's a much better way to go. So it was
Yeah.
really just observational. It wasn't like I
Sure.
need to. No,
Yeah.
it was like, oh, I see how this works now. So nobody, and I just don't know anybody that could have told me that when I was
Yeah, you
like,
wouldn't have listened because you already knew. You thought you
yeah,
did, right?
I had the answers.
Yeah. So you have had your marketing company for 26 years, but you've been in the industry for 37. So did you learn a lot of the tools of the trade at working for another corporation for those first 9 years or 11 years, I guess?
I've been independent. I've worked for people, but I've really been independent. I've been a commission sales rep for all those 37 years.
Oh, okay.
So it's just all about, and again, it was about showing up more than anybody else, being organized, listening better, taking notes, doing what I say I'm going to do, over delivering, those types of things, which I started out in the food business, selling wholesale to retail food. And I did very well with that in a short period of time. And then I was in the athletic footwear and apparel business for 8 years. So, and I did that, I had the New England territory and did very well at that. And, just basically took small territories and built them. I mean, that one went to 10 million bucks.
Wow. What industry did you enjoy being in the most of the things that you were selling?
My sporting goods time was my favorite time. Number one, I was working with two great guys that I learned a lot from. A lot of things, like simple things like how to dress properly, even better.
Yeah.
Actually investing in your wardrobe. Again, a lot of those simple things that you just like one of the actually the chapter on organization is a quip that this guy Bill gave me one day. He says, "Listen, the most organized wins." Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I should be organized.
It's
So
amazing. My corporation, the first big corporation I ever worked for, they sent all their leadership to a Franklin Covey training.
Sure.
And of everything that I've done in my career, as far from a training standpoint, that one event, which I took that at 21 years old, I'm 37 now, was the most impactful thing I've ever done because it taught me how to prioritize time and information. And so much of our life now, so many of those to-dos and organization live in our inbox. And it taught me how to manage it in a way that I've carried on throughout my entire career. And so often my ability to manage that has made me appear to be more successful or a faster thinker, but actually it's just my organization allows me to get to the answer sooner. And because my inbox is clean, I don't miss conversation, because so often people are frustrated because they're like, Neil, I emailed you a week ago, I haven't heard back. And it's not that the person didn't want to respond, it's that they didn't even know they had the email in their inbox because it's cluttered with 1,000 others. But
Right.
the way that I've managed that, if I get an email, I'm not going to miss it because it'll be the only one in my inbox. And those little skills have had such a profound impact on my ability to succeed.
I just saw interesting when I was another podcast I've been invited on. I was listening to it, and guess who she was interviewing?
Who? Franklin
Some
Covey?
guy that was a Franklin Covey executive.
Wow.
26, 27 years. I was like, I forgot all about Franklin Covey. So I went back, I looked up. I love those old, I was a daytimer guy.
Yeah, they had the planners and
Yeah, the planners. I mean, they're like, I'm a paper guy. Yes, I do use my phone and
yeah.
all that, but I still want to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been an amazing. I just can't express enough how big of a deal that made. And really we've talked about a lot of simple concepts. And what's funny is that nothing that we've said is even necessarily a skilled thing. Like showing up on time isn't necessarily a skill. I guess listening is a skill, but so much of it you can just do if you just have a little bit of give a shit in you. And so often I find that the people that we're competing with in these professional arenas don't do those little easy things, and it allows the opportunity to shine. Because if you're willing to show up and you're willing to listen and willing to be organized, and you build all of those skill sets on top of each other, you can really achieve anything.
Exactly. I mean, I say it all the time when that's why I'm not going to go up there and speak like I always joke. I said, I went to the Harvard of state schools, Salem State University. I'm not going to, what was it? Here's a great, actually, here's a pretty decent Toastmasters story. So one night, I wasn't going to be able to go. And this kid that I had mentored he emailed me, said, "Hey, Neil, are you coming tonight?" I said, "Well, I'm not. I've had something. I forget exactly what it was that precluded me from getting there on time. So if I can't get there on time, I'm not going." He says, "Well," or if it couldn't stay, one of the two. And he says, "Well, I'm doing my speech on mentoring, and it's kind of all about you." So, all right, I'll come. So I came and I told the Toastmaster, I said, "Listen, I'm just here for Franklin's speech." Ironically enough, his name is Franklin. And then I'm going to have to scoot. So that night just so happened, two of the three speakers canceled. So they had nobody else. So I said to the Toastmaster, I said, "Hey, Mike, I'm raring to go. If you want me to do a quick one off the cuff, I'll be happy to give you 5 to 7 minutes." He goes, "Yeah, go ahead." All right. So I just went 5 to 7 minutes on. It was around positive activity or something in that vein. And so then you get evaluated. So the woman who evaluated me is kind of a full contact Toastmasters person. Nice lady, but letter of the law of everything Toastmaster. That's
Yeah.
not what I'm there for. I am there to develop my own style.
Yeah.
Yes, I want to hear what they have to say. I want to use, much like I tell people when they listen to me, listen to everything I have, take what you like, leave the rest. So, anyways, she gives me a stellar evaluation, except you use the word gonna, and it's not a word. I said, but you know what? I'm gonna do it again. That's the way I speak. And guess what? Everybody will know what I'm talking about.
Well, and I think that when you use a term like gonna, it's a little bit relatable because then they can see that. Because sometimes I think there's a tendency when someone's on stage for us to put them on a pedestal because they're literally on a pedestal. And so it's good when you can relate and almost a little bit self-deprecating and using a word that's not a word and allows them to see that you're just a person just like anybody else.
Well, I think one of the questions you asked earlier is like, how did I come up with the book? Well, there was a guy. So I live in a little golf community here in New Hampshire, and so they got a clubhouse and and all that. And so my daughter was being honored by the local chamber, right? People 30 to watch under 30.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Chamber.
Yep.
They've got an award for everything. So we went. Lori and I went, and I'm sitting there, and the guy who brought Five Guys burgers to New Hampshire was the keynote speaker, and he was awesome. He was nuts and bolts, no big words, and he just talked about his business and what he did. And the thing is, this was the linchpin for me in terms of like, when I went to write the book, I thought about this because it was 3 or 4 years after this actual event. Now, of course, you're familiar with pre-meal.
No.
Given you're in the hospitality business, right?
No, I don't.
So pre-meal is that little get together that they have in the on the floor, and they'll talk about what the specials are, what's the wine of the night.
Sure, yeah.
Right? What's 86th, what's whatever, and then also they give a little bit of a rah-rah speech.
Yeah.
So his rah-rah speech was, "We're not in the burger business. We're not in the fry business. We're not in the soda business. We're not in the shake business." I did mention he brought Five Guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. He says, "We're not in the burger business. We're not in the fry business. We're not in the soda. We're not in the shake business. We're in the hospitality business." I looked at my wife, and for a point of context, I met her when I was a bartender in Boston, and she was a food server. And I looked at her and I said, "I've never left the bar. I've been bartending on the road for 30 plus years." That's what it just hit me.
Wow, I love that.
We're doing the same thing, just so
different product.
So anyway, so that was, and that's the way I like to communicate. I mean, I go talk to the kids at Berkeley, they're songwriters. They don't know anything, but they're artists. They're engineer types. They're too smart, right? I want to take what and I'll kind of help you and I'll sell it for you.
Yeah.
I can't be the guy that developed it, but I'll do some clever things, but not. Neil was never going to be an engineer. As a matter of fact, a buddy of mine has a great line. We were here in this. We've been here about 4 years, and we were all hanging out in my kitchen, and he's always a guy that comes up with equipment. He says, and one of our buddies' kids was there, and he was a cybersecurity engineer, and he's just engineering away, right?
Yeah.
Right. And my buddy Jim goes, you know what? If the engineers could sell, we'd all be screwed.
That's awesome. I love that. It's fun watching someone really good at speaking, especially as you get into it. Because before I used to really enjoy good speakers because I just liked what they had to say and what they made me think about. But now I watch it the same way that I watch sports. I'm watching where do they stand and when do they move and when do they pause and how do they use their hands. And it's made watching speaking, a whole new thing for me, which I've really enjoyed. So I love hearing about experience where you've had great interactions with incredible speakers like the gentleman you shared. I'm curious with all the things that you've done, Neil, and maybe I have an idea of this, but one thing I like to talk about, Jim Collins talks about the big, hairy, audacious goal. And another one of my favorite thought leaders and authors is Vishen Lakhani. So he started Mind Valley, which is like a thought leader platform. He's written 3 awesome books, The Buddha and the Badass, 6-Phase Meditation, and The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. And he says that humans have a propensity to overestimate what we can do in 1 year, but underestimate what we can do in 3 years. So one of the exercises I like to do with people is ask, what's your big, hairy, audacious goal? Like, what is the thing that's 3 years down the road for you that you're working for now? Because you've obviously done so much. So what is that thing that now you're striving for that you hope to arrive at 3 years from now?
I just want to, the goal, as we talked about earlier, it's just not, we'll go through the process of what we're doing with this speaking thing. And we're making mistakes and we're trying to find that path and we're trying to find the hook. We're trying to find the who's, the what's, the where's, all those things.
Yeah.
We do have an agency that we're working with right now. And so now that's a sales job too, right?
Yeah.
I got to stay in front of them.
Yeah.
I got to make sure their agents are know what we're trying to do and all that. And so I think in 3 years, which by the way, I'll be darn close to 70. As a matter of fact, I'll be knocking on the door. We'll probably still have the promotional business. But more than likely we'll be doing more speaking, and like let's put it this way, it'll flip.
Okay. I love, it's a real inspiration that, you'll be knocking on the door 70, but still going after it. Do you find yourself to be the type, do you ever think you'll retire or do you just enjoy it too much?
No, my no desire.
Yeah.
I mean, if we can play it out like, again, the kids are all gone. We've paid all the tuitions we need to pay. My daughter is doing unbelievable. My other son's doing unbelievable. And Craig is situated properly.
Yeah.
We need to do some more there. But yeah, I don't know what I would do. I mean, I get such a gas out of this.
Sure.
Just this conversation.
Yeah.
And so I want to, it's, what's interesting though, giving away speaking is almost as hard as getting paid for it.
Yeah.
It really is.
It's
There's a guy from another Toastmaster, a quick Toastmaster story. We all met for a beer and whatnot. And the guy said, "Hey, Neil, I think that speech, because they allowed me to give it wasn't the full keynote, but I instead of just a 5 to 7 minute speech, I could stretch it to 15.
Okay.
So I gave kind of the Reader's Digest version of the keynote for navigating the special needs world with positive activity. And he says to me, Neil, that would be really good content for this New Hampshire Humanities. I went, okay, sure. I'm looking at that. So I looked on the website, figured out who the program director might be, sent her my reel, sent her my this, sent her my that, da, 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 da. She starts questioning me whether or not it's a humanity. And then so I repositioned it so it was like
Yeah.
one of the humanities,
Yeah.
or had bits and pieces of the humanities. And so I'm like, so I'm looking, so now I'm looking at the roster of who's with them and who's on the board, and it's acronym. It's a vegetable soup at the end of the names.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Uh-huh. Yep, yep.
PhD, all the PhDs in the world. It's like, okay, you don't want Mr. Ghana to come and speak to you.
Right.
No, this is not. But it was interesting. But I did give it the old college try, because I would have adjusted.
Sure.
I wouldn't have gone completely ghetto on them, right?
Yeah, speaking is a hard thing to get into. And I had my first paying gig ever in November of 2024. And it was a long road to get to that point. Like I think I'd probably spoke for free for, it would have been almost 2 years at that point before finally I was able to crack in, which was an awesome experience to be able to do that. But I really enjoy it. I'm kind of like yourself. I don't see myself ever stopping working, but I would love to have my speaking career flourishing at the later stages, like when my kids are out of the house, and then I can travel around with my wife and we can go visit cool places and go spend a day talking to awesome people. Like that to me sounds way more fun than just sitting around the house playing Scrabble or something. I don't know what you would do if you had something going on.
I mean, people love it. I mean, I'm not poo-pooing people that can do it, and I've never been busier. I can't, all that stuff. I've heard it a zillion times, and I go, all right. I just know it wouldn't be me, because yes, I play music, I do this, I do that, but it's, I can only ride my bike so much. I can only go to so many yoga classes. I can only go to so many Pilates. I can, but yeah, I can't see a time when, I'm certainly never doing the Florida thing. I know that for a fact.
Well, that's what you're supposed to do if you live in the Northeast.
No, I tell you, I kiss the ground we walk on up here. I mean, yeah, it's cool. I mean, this has been I was sick last week, so that never helps. And it was 2 degrees and that type of stuff. So that was a little rough. But we really we really only have to struggle through January and February, and they go by like nothing.
That's another cool thing about speaking. That gig I talked about was in Norfolk, Virginia. I would have never went there otherwise. That was cool. I just went to Vermont, Burlington, Vermont. I was in December for a talk. And that was another place I would have never went. That was really cool. And then 2 weeks ago, I was in Philadelphia, which is great. I got to see the Rocky Museum and go up the steps and see the Liberty Bell and catch a couple 76ers games. And speaking gives you the opportunity to experience all those different places and cultures, which is just an added bonus, I think. But next question I've got for you, and being that you're on the Winning the Moment podcast, it's one of the questions I like to ask every guest. And so understand you've got the freedom to define a win however you like, but what's the biggest win you've ever had in your life?
Wow, well, the obvious one
was 37 years ago.
Well, about 39 years ago, when if you ever do read my book, you'll see I do this little ditty in there. It's like, how does the self-absorbed, obnoxious, going nowhere bartender wind up with this? So
because you're a salesman, that's
clearly,
how.
That was clearly anyways, it's been a great journey, and we've done so well together, and we've done so many good things and all that. I would suggest in terms of like I just started playing the piano and singing. I mean, I've been singing. I've been doing a little bit of both my whole life, and I just about a year ago, I picked up again during we won't say the word. Took music lessons, and so I started doing vocal over Zoom, and then she knew I played the piano or goofed around with it anyway. She says, "All right, you need to play and sing." All right, how am I going to do that? So I put together a positive activity plan. I did a positive activity plan.
That's so cool.
90 days later, I'm singing "A House Is Not a Home" on the stage in front of 200 people.
That's amazing. I love that. I would be remiss if I didn't ask. So with your wife, you guys have been together for 39 years. What do you think is the key to that? Because I mean, that is a huge win. What, like, for the people who are listening who are maybe in a marriage now or strive to, or have the ambition to have a marriage that lasts like that, what would you say the key to that is?
Well, okay, self-serving. I'd have them read bar tips.
There you go. Okay, there you go. A
I mean,
shameless
it's like,
plug.
because what, because again, one of the most, what is the greatest part of in relationship development? It's listening.
Yeah.
So I would say these two things: at the listening. So the chapter is the importance of a proper greeting, which kicks out with however you greet somebody, a smile, a handshake, whatever
Yeah.
that may be. Not that you're going to be doing that with your wife, but you still a smile and a welcome in the
Yeah,
morning,
for
hug and
sure.
a kiss, or whatever it is, and then the listening part. Are you listening? So actively listening with your spouse and your kids, you know, ain't a bad thing. And
Yeah.
then the biggest thing that I ever learned from this guy in the food business, he's kind of the wiseacre sales guy, but always tops of the tree. So this is where, again, was when I said I wasn't coachable. This is when I was really coachable, and I said, okay, I want to be like him. He's selling a lot, he's making a lot of money, he's got the car, he's got this, he's got that. And so I would do whatever he needed me to do. As a
Yeah.
matter of fact, I even tended bar in his parties, his Christmas parties and stuff. So so I would travel with him, cover his route when he went on vacation, make deliveries for him if he forgot something, whatever it is. And he said to me, if you forget everything else I told you and remember this one thing, this will be helpful to you. And that is, whenever anything goes wrong, start here. What was my role in this? How could I have done better? Why don't lash out at the guy who picks the order in the warehouse? Don't get mad at the guy on the truck. Did I give the information to the customer service person properly? Did I get the order in time? Now, you may find that you were spit and polish and you did get it done. Doesn't matter. You take that moment of humility and say, you know what? Anybody can mess up, even as I examine myself today. So
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. I hope the listeners really, really tuned into that. It reminds me of a moment where this was in my sales gig, and we were on like our weekly call with our regional manager, going over the sales. And I was training a new district manager at the time. And we were in the Southwest, and it was alphabetical order. So SW, Southwest A, Southwest B, and I was Southwest H. So I was at the end. I was the last person. And so the regional manager is going through with everyone. She's asking, because we had a really poor sales performance weekend. So she's saying, Neil, what happened? And John, what happened? And everyone's making excuses, right? Like, oh, my manager at this location didn't do what he was supposed to do, and they didn't schedule properly, and my team wasn't engaged, and just everything external from their management, right? It was all about the people they had failing at whatever it was that the task at hand was. And she's grilling everybody. I mean, this call goes on for like 2 hours. She's just leaning into everyone. I bet every person spoke for 15 to 25 minutes and just being berated with questions. And so I go last, obviously, and she gets to me and she goes, Cody, what happened in your district? And I said, well, her name was Sharon. I said, Sharon, here's the deal. I wasn't engaged. I obviously wasn't as good of a leader as I could have been. I didn't do my due diligence to make sure we had the right people working. I didn't get my team motivated. And I know that I can do better, and I will next time, and it's on me. And she goes, okay, thank you so much. And that's it. 1 minute of taking accountability. She just moved on. And the district manager looks at me and goes, what just happened? And I said, I'm the only one out of the entire group who said it was my fault. And so she has nothing else to say to me, because I know that it's up to me to fix it. And everyone else made it about everyone else and not about themselves.
love it.
Yeah. So that's my story. Okay. So duality obviously exists, and when there's good, there's bad. And so you've shared your biggest win, what I absolutely love, but what is your biggest loss?
The biggest loss was when I finished up the sporting goods business, my success there. I felt like I could do anything. I was also reeling a little bit from 2 or 3 years being removed from my son being diagnosed. I kind of got in with a guy who is purported himself to be a very smart guy, and turned out he was kind of living a lie. And so he, but because I didn't know this, I just kind of went willy-nilly into this new business that I decided I wanted to do, which was computer software training. And my cousin was involved with it, and I said, "Oh, this looks interesting. I want to upgrade my computer skills. How do I do that?" And I had some money that I could use and to get the company started, and this, that, and the other thing. And it just spiraled bad, and I was out over my skis in terms of what my skill set is. I never got to the place where I could just go and sell. And because we're building a company and we're raising money, and I was like, oh my goodness. So that was a tough one. I didn't know if I recovered from that one. That was rough.
Well, I commend you. It's usually a difficult question, and unless someone brings up like a person that's passed, that's usually the only time people can have an answer so ready. So the fact that you just knew it instantly shows that you've really taken the time to like do some internal dialogue, because most people really pause at that question and have to think through how they want to answer it, and you just ripped it off. So I appreciate your vulnerability there. Well, we are we're knocking on the doorstep of 60 minutes here, Neil, but I can't let you leave without asking the most important question that I ask, and one that I found to be unbelievably fascinating because it is so open to individuals' perception. But that being said, how do you define success?
It's just it's just happiness. It really is. It's just having. I mean, success is where we're at today, and it's not because we're in, on the water in Boston and whatnot. We have been independent business people for all these years. So there's been no stock options. There's been none of this, none of that, et cetera. Everything we did on our own. But it's just about being content with the way you live, and being balanced, between my music and our business and the speaking and the mentorships I do. That's all I can say. I do not equate financial success as success.
Sure.
I think it's a neat little point. I mean, am I happy where we are? Yeah, but I've got friends that have got a lot more money than I do. I guarantee you that.
I love that you said happiness, because happiness is another one of those fascinating words like success that can mean so many different things. And I think that it has an equal pursuit like success does. It's something that people are striving to get, and it can oftentimes be fleeting. But I think if we change the definition of it to mean what we want it to mean for us as individuals, then we can find happiness and success more readily available. So I think it's so important you decide for yourself what you want out of those things. Neil, this has been awesome. I've loved our conversation. I can't believe it's already been an hour. If people connected with you and they're interested, maybe they want to read bar tips or they want to learn more about positive activity, what's the best way for people to connect with you?
I would go to positiveactivity.net.
Okay.
All there.
Well,
everything about me, everything about our speaking, our business, our philosophy, it's chock full of stuff, and be happy to deliver it to anybody that'll listen.
Okay. Well, I will.
Can I give you one tip on the way out the door?
Oh yeah, I'd love a tip. Let's hear it.
Okay. Repeat after me. Speaking is easy.
Speaking is easy. Oh, you caught it.
I am a speaker.
I am a speaker.
Boom.
Boom. I love that you said that, Neil, because I tell people all the time, don't say things or you'll make it true. And I said, speaking is hard, and you caught it, and you had me rephrase it and said, speaking is easy. And it's so powerful. It all starts in our mind. So thank you for that. What a great gift. It's been an absolute pleasure. I love this episode.